Playing meta heroes is fun and all, I know, but they all have one problem in common. First, they get a huge buff which makes them rise to the top before getting hit by the nerf hammer multiple times, which drops them back into the abyss. I mean, does anyone remember when these two were meta? It was just a few months ago and look at this! Or do you remember how OP 1-1 was before? So today I want to talk about 10 hidden gems that will help you climbing up the ranks super fast while being almost 100% safe from the nerf hammer. Make sure to tell me which hero you think is underrated in the comments, and let's start with hero number 1. Number 1. Lights out! I know, I'm 2 months late, but what the fuck is this? If I sound weird, by the way, it's because I'm freaking sick thanks to the shitty German weather. Yeah. 𝐷𝐿 was once the most feared hero in the game, but those times are long gone. This cockroach is still very powerful though, especially in solo queue. And there are multiple reasons for that. Firstly, his lights out ultimate is a huge game changer while fighting for objectives. It's a perfect tool to use right before you use your retribution to secure the turtle or the lord, or even to steal it away from your enemies. Plus, it is also super useful to blind your enemies when taking down a turret or even a base. In ganks, it's of course also a very useful tool for your whole team, if you're smart enough to use it at the right moment when your team engages. And not only for your own bloodlust. Secondly, 𝐷𝐿 is very good at pushing lanes, which is essential while playing in lower ranks. If you're stuck in Mythical Glory and would ask me which is the most useful ability a hero must have to escape it in solo queue, my answer will be get a hero who can push. Inexperienced players love to drag the game further and further, since their first reaction after winning a gank is getting the blue or red buff. Most of the time even in their own jungle. When your enemies lay in the dirt though, it's the time where you take objectives. And 𝐷𝐿 is very good at it. With his blink skill and in the worst case his ultimate, he can also easily escape when the enemies are approaching him. And thirdly, he's an early game monster. Once you've reached level 4, you can start terrorizing the enemy squishies. Obvious text to 4, ult, land your first skill and blast them away with your second skill. Getting Fury Hammer as your first item after your jungle boots is essential here, since it's enough to penetrate most of the enemy's early game defense away. Here's a quick comparison where I have the same physical attack, but on the right side I have Fury Hammer equipped. The total difference is 210 damage, which doesn't sound like that much, but if you remember back how many times your enemy escaped with just 1 HP, 210 extra damage for every single attack with your second skill surely sounds great. Plus every attack benefits from it, including your basic attack. And for the price of 830 gold, it's also way cheaper than getting any other attack items. Even when you equip 5 daggers who cost 1250 gold together, you still deal less damage. These small advantages really help you to get the upper hand in the early game. So subscribe to not miss the upcoming itemization guides, where I will talk more about the items that will help you to climb up the ranks in no time. Enough with the item excursion for now though, let's head over to hero number 2. Number 2. The Running Tin Can. I just played with him for the new solo queue to Mythical Glory using every hero only one series, also known as 𝐷𝐿. Anyone has a good idea how to shorten the series name? And Joe had just surprised me once again how OP he is in the early game. You could even make a case that he's the strongest early game hero, especially when you use him as a jungler. That's why your goal in every match with him is build up the biggest advantage possible in the early to mid game. In the beginning you can easily run towards the enemy's red buff and just steal it in a matter of seconds, which takes the enemy's jungler out of the game, since now they can't reach level 4 that easily. Afterwards you either take your 2 buffs to become level 4, or you already search for your first victim on the mid lane, for example. No matter what you did, you secured the early game advantage for your team, so you have to use it. Roam around the lanes and get one kill after another, make sure to get every turtle, and keep annoying the enemy's jungler by stealing their buffs. In the early game, you are the true definition of unstoppable, since there's almost no enemy who can compete with you in the 1v1. Why he's not the most picked hero if he's so strong, you may ask? Well, that's because he falls off heavily in the late game. Huge 5v5 teamfights are nothing for him, and he really struggles to deal his damage in those situations. But that's why you try to build up the huge advantage I was talking about. And if you play smart, you can still be useful by ambushing your enemies, or by building items like Wind Talker in the late game so you can start to split push effectively. Overall, you get a hero who can even make the noob Layla look like a beast, since you have the ability to make her so fat that nobody can do anything against her anymore. Number 3. The Sand Eater. 𝐾𝐸𝐬 is the third lowest picked hero in the game right now, and I can't really understand why. With his first skill, he deals a decent amount of AoE damage. With his second skill, he can regen his lost HP, which makes it super hard to win the lane against him. He has good movement speed thanks to his passive that allows him to rotate quickly or chase escaping enemies, and his ult is perfect to engage against the enemy's backline, which also provides a very nice stun. The only weakness that he has is that hard CC effects can stop his attack and regen, but you should always pick heroes according to your enemies, of course. Super strong heroes like Fanny also become useless AF if the enemy decided to pick Khufra, 𝐂, and Saber. So if you wanna play with him, make sure your enemies don't have a bunch of instant stunners. I also tested him as a roamer and must say, he is surprisingly good. In the early game, you can deal a good amount of damage and just invade the poor enemy's jungler while you become the meat shield for your allies in the late game. If you heal yourself while having Oracle equipped, it is almost impossible to kill you unless you get stunned or into a 1v5 situation. Now, why I recommend to play him has another reason beside his abilities. Since he is rarely used in any match, most enemies, especially those in lower ranks, have no idea how to play against him. Probably they don't even know how his skills work, and this gives you a crucial advantage over them. They don't know what to expect from you and will often underestimate your abilities since you play such a low hero. This can be your biggest weapon though, since they won't focus you to take you out of the game, unlike when you play a popular hero. The next hero falls into the same category. Number 4. The Dark Angel. God, I cannot make this voice today. Whenever you search for the heroes with the highest win rate overall, you will find Argus always in the top 10. But popularity-wise, you will find him near the bottom. Why is that? Well, firstly, because he is actually a very flawed hero, and there are certainly much better XP laners or junglers out there. His cooldowns are long AF, without his ult he's mostly a sitting duck, in teamfights he can't reach the backline, and any stun can completely stop him. That being said, I'm not picking Argus for teamfights. I pick him to destroy the enemy's base. Simply slap Inspire and the jungle emblem with Demon Slayer on him, use the Trinity build with Windtalker for maximum attack speed, and just split push like hell. This forces the enemies to cover their lanes with at least one hero, but since Argus is actually strong in a 1v1, at least as long as he has his ult and Inspire ready, they often need 2 heroes to stop him, which is okay since you can easily escape with your first skill and try to push on another lane or retry it on the same lane. Just keep doing this until the base of the enemy is gone, and you can enjoy a sweet victory with the stinky silver medal. But that's way better than the MVP lost medal, right? Number 5. The BONK Lady. I already talked shortly about Lolita in my best heroes for season 28 video, but in the video about the most underrated heroes, she must be mentioned. If you need a tank as roamer while still playing in solo queue, I would advise you to pick her over every other tank in the game right now. Her ability to influence the outcome of the match is just better than from any other tank, which is also the reason why she has the highest overall win rate since months. While checking my account's history, I was surprised that I only played 12 matches with her so far. But what didn't surprise me was that I've won 11 out of these 12 matches. This alone shows how good she is, and that she's not the typical roamer who is too dependent on her allies. Her first skill has a nice blink to engage and a good stun, which is perfect to bully the enemy's marksman, plus you deal quite some damage with it, which is perfect to KS the kills from your enemies away. No, don't do this. Her second skill is a nightmare for any ranged hero, especially marksman. As a 1-1 main, I fear nothing more than this bloody thing, and you just want to throw your phone against the wall when she blocks your entire ultimate. But what really makes her OP is her game-changing ultimate, at least if you use it right. What you shouldn't do is just using it openly on the battlefield when you want to stun the enemies, because then everyone just dashes away from it, or worse, they stun you, which sets your ult on cooldown. This is probably Lolita's biggest weakness, and something you always have to keep in mind. It is not wrong per se to use it this way though. If you want to scare away the enemies from an objective, for example, You can use it like this to give your team more time. It is much better though to use your ult from a bush since you're not visible, which makes it easier to land your ult, plus it keeps you safe from stuns. Or to use the good old flicker trick. Here I would also suggest to not use it openly on the battlefield because it is too easy to interrupt it. What you should do is charge it further away from the enemies and flicker towards them right before the charge is done. Like this, you can really surprise the enemies and potentially wipe them out to win the game. Or you use it to quickly bonk an enemy to death. I could give you so many examples how to use her, but this would be just too much for a video like this. If you're still in doubt, test her out in a classic match and see for yourself how great she is. Number 6. Little Red Riding Hood. This is a really sad story. A few months ago, Ruby was still one of the best fighters / tanks of the game, but she has fallen down the popularity ranking really hard. And I just have the same question that I had for Lolita. Why? To demonstrate my point, we take a look at the match that I had to test out Ruby. In this match, I had more or less 4 bots playing with me. These stats are horrific at best, and at one point we have a deficit of 25 kills. Usually, this is a guaranteed loss. I was the only one who could hold the lane until the enemy started to focus me, where I had to retreat and basically give up my 2 turrets. Now, what is so great about Ruby? Sustainability paired with a good amount of damage and non-stop CCs for the enemy, or tankiness overload paired with non-stop CCs if you play her as a roamer. In this match, I was the XP laner Ruby, so my goal was clear. Firstly, make sure to kill Leslie since she could burst me down. Secondly, make sure to stun the tanky enemies so our allies, especially carry, can melt them down. And if an enemy was stupid enough to get close to any turret, flicker trick them under it and make them suffer. Ruby's set is perfect for team fights, so even if your team is losing out badly like here, you always have the chance to make an epic comeback thanks to her skill set. In this match, we also managed to make a comeback thanks to 2 team fights which we won in the late game, which allowed us to take the Lord, which was enough to finish the match. Sure, I was a bit lucky that the enemy was busy spamming the recall buttons, but still, it was thanks to Ruby's kit that we even got the chance to turn the match around. And that's the reason why I don't understand her low popularity. If you search for an all-rounder that can be good on both the XP lane and as a roamer, pick Ruby for your solo queue adventure to Mythical Glory. This video is not sponsored by 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜, by the way. Number 7. The Horseman. This pick even surprised myself. For this video I was testing out a lot of heroes who have a low pick rate, and Hylos was the one that surprised me the most. Hylos as a roamer is pretty good, but lacks the impact other roamers can have. Hylos as XP laner works somewhat as well, but where he really shines is in the jungle. You can clear the jungle in lightning speed thanks to his enormous HP, plus Molten Essence of course, so you have a lot of time to terrorize the enemy side laners. Am I allowed to say terrorize or get I demonetized for it? Auto aim MMs will scream in panic whenever they see you, since you can reduce their attack speed greatly with Dominance Eyes and your second skill. And if that's not enough, build Blade Armor to fire back their damage. While you're tanky AF, you can also deal a good amount of damage, and always have the chance to escape with your ult when you realize your noob laner is once again busy running through the jungle instead of being useful. As build, you can either go for a full tank or a hybrid build. Both builds have to be adjusted to the enemies of course, as it's always the case for tanky heroes. His core items are Dominance Eyes, Guardian Helmet and Cursed Helmet, and all other items are situational. If you want some damage, you could build Cloak of Destiny, Glowing Wand if you want to become a tank killer, or Ice Queen Wand if you want to cut your enemy's legs off completely. As I said, he really surprised me, and I think he's a very strong pick for solo queue when you want to rank up from the lower ranks. Number 8. Twilight Girl. Another hero where I just don't understand why she isn't more popular. I think her kit is just not interesting enough for many casual players. Lunox is a very flexible hero who is perfect to take down tanky enemies or the turtle or the lord. Her Chaos first skill deals up to 5% of the enemy's max HP as extra damage, and with her Chaos ult, this skill has no cooldown for 4 seconds. So you can literally spam your enemy to death. This also works against the Lord, which is very useful in an objective fight. On top of that, her light ult makes her invincible, which is perfect to avoid ambushes. She has a few weaknesses like her rotation is pretty slow, but she's still way better than other mages who are way more popular. Number 9. The most handsome hero in the game. Another era I already played for the new solo queue to Mythical Glory using every hero only one series, and my god he's strong. In the higher ranks or the pro scene you won't see him often, backline? Simply because teams are more coordinated there, and a mage that can control the enemy's backline is simply stronger there. In the uncontrolled mess that is going on in Mythical Glory and below though, Cyclops is one of the best solo queue picks because he don't need a good team to be good. There must be a reason why he's 𝐵𝐻's favorite hero, eh? I really like heroes who are able to play multiple roles, simply because you can spam them in basically any match. Cyclops is one of them. He's good on the mid lane, but even better as a jungler in my opinion, because once you manage to get the snowball rolling, you're an unstoppable force until you have your full build and the enemies are catching up. His rotation is very fast, and as soon as you have built Enchanted Talisman, you can start to spam around your first 2 skills almost non-stop. And once you build Genius Wand and Concentrated Energy, you actually deal a really good amount of damage, while you also regen your HP non-stop because of the spamming. Playing Cyclops is very different than most mages, since you're actually getting quite close to your enemies. That's not a big issue though because of set spam, and you can always get a defensive item like Brute Force Breastplate, since your spam is working very well with its passive that gives you both physical and magic defense, plus some more movement speed to chase the screaming squishies. Number 10. My main. Okay, yes, I know I'm breaking my own rule system here a bit because one is never safe from the Banhammer, but looking at her current stats, she's kinda underrated, at least in the lower ranks right now. In the pro scene, she still has a ban rate of over 90% in almost every league, while in the overall ranking she has a ban rate of 6.1%. And we're talking about a hero here who can get maniacs and savages while being completely invincible. If you really want to rank up fast without needing any teammates, abuse the situation and to learn how to play her ASAP, which you can do by watching this video right here. See over there.